All right. All right, I'm going to check. Make sure everything's cool. Why am I nervous, man? Look at that.
I can't see anything without my glasses.
That just popped up. So weird geezer. Huh. How cool is that? Okay. It's not. Okay, here we go. All right. We're live. We've got 12 people in the house. Milana. Hi, Milana. Michael Abramson, Karen Starr, Charlene Wall, Debrielle, Mary Cooper, Kirsty Belleville, Leslie Martin, Philo Leela, Tamara Von Brugel, Ryan Powers, Ryan Aguilar, Lisa Martin. They're coming in very, very fast. Sean Warren, Karen Starr. Let me say first, thank you everybody for your continued love and support and contributions. So in typical Soulogy fashion, which is just a name for all the energy that we all share, that we all are. This is spontaneous through some synchronistic events, and 39 minutes ago, we got the word to come on again.
Actually, I think Kamara.
Yeah. Kamara Ford was a big part of that. Okay, so much of what's happening in 2019 is about coming out. And I just received this intro before we got started, of what to say to introduce this broadcast. I'm just going to say it. So we're sitting outside. Morgan got the word, let's do this. And I'm like, what? Do what? She's like, let's go do this now. And I'm like, okay. Everyone knows she's hesitant, somewhat reluctant, and has been to come on. Not that she's shy, but that she doesn't need to do that. That's reflective of this feminine energy that's rising now. Okay. So when I was sitting outside, we're talking about the subjects that we posted because it's time. And I saw all of these long, elongated crystals come down onto the earth and form a circle around us. And then all of these sisters started to come, all right, like to hold space. And then a masculine energy that looked like a centaur with an arrow, like a Sagittarius, which I happen to be, which I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think this is just a metaphoric transmission, shot an arrow of fire into the circle, and a big rectangular, what looked like a cube of ice, appeared in the middle of the fire. I don't know why I'm saying that, but I know there must be some meaning to it. So this is the year that we're all coming out. The divine feminine's coming out in all of our voices, male or female. And so I'm going to lead in with what I received, right? Which is basically this. I met this incredible woman 3+ years ago. And from the get-go, I knew something was going on. And again, this is not just about a personal journey of two people or one person. She told me very early on, and she's been connected for many, many years, almost 20 years, as many of you have, especially the divine feminines around the world who've been doing work. And we've talked about this in anonymity, without notoriety, sometimes in seclusion, estranged from families and such. And again, thank you all for doing that. Now, my point is that she told me, I came here, I understand my mission is to bring divine union, divine love back to the planet. And I'm supposed to say that. We have 3 subjects on the board, and the first subject is Herios Gamos. Herios Gamos is something that has been written about in many of the ancient texts. Many people have received transmissions about it. And I think we turn that over to you now. And by the way, Morgan has a Herios Gamos page, which I'm being told that needs to come out right now because there is some good information on it. What is Herios Gamos?
What is Herios Gamos? Herios Gamos is the understanding that two souls can actually consciously merge, and it doesn't matter if they're on the other side of the planet, it doesn't matter if they're together or whatever, but this conscious intention of merging the two souls through every chakra is so powerful. And what I found through learning, in my learning experience, was that most people get stuck at the sacral chakra and then it becomes cyber sex, and it was never ever meant to be that. In the beginning, Todd Medina apparently admitted only a few months ago that he was stalking me for 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he invited me to like his Soulogy page, and I wrote back to him, can you tell me about it? And he just ignored me for a couple of days, which I was okay with. I mean, I don't want to be in groups. It didn't matter. But 2 days later, I think it was in the middle of the afternoon for me, I just knew to respond to him, and he was in a state where he was yelling out for, I need her now. I had had a few years of practicing what I call Herios Gamos, which was merging with other people. Actually, all of them were masculine energies, bar one, where I would consciously allow my soul to merge with his soul nearly every single time. The first one was very, very sexual for him, and then I would say to him, we're going to merge. And at that point it was, we're going to merge as one for the next 2 weeks. Where the two people consciously become one, share energetic information, they share expansion. Actually, there was this one man, I think it was one of my clients, and it was the very first one that I did, and I accidentally merged with him, and he came to me because he had an addiction to sex. He was having sex with 4 or 5 or 6 women a day. He was married with 3 young girls. He didn't care if they were 14 or 90 plus, and he was having sex with 90 plus women, which was profound to me. But he came to me with an issue of being oversexed. He merged with me. We stayed in that state as one for 2 weeks. I was in a relationship where there was almost zero sex. Did you mention this is X-rated?
It's not X-rated. This is soul family we're with.
So I spent 2 weeks having multiple orgasms at the most inappropriate times. I'd be driving down the road, I had to pull over and stop. But at the end of that 2 weeks, his addiction to sex was gone, and my knowledge of my worthiness of some healthy sexual energy had expanded.
Yeah.
So the two human beings that allow themselves to merge as one consciously through all the chakras, expand each other. I think it was only about 3 or 4 months later, I had a presentation that I had to do in front of a class of people, and I was beside myself. And Todd Medina, who has never had any issue with that. So we merged the, and this is not consciously, we just watched it happen. So my power solar plexus merged with his, and my throat chakra merged with his, and all my terror of speaking out publicly disappeared. Yeah. And from that point also, I noticed that I just started writing poetry. Now, I'd never written poetry in my life, but allowing at a conscious level myself to merge with those two aspects of him opened up something in me where I could now write poetry. So I was really, after a few years of this, understanding that we have the ability to bypass the human mind and merge energetically and actually gain from each other.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, every time we merged and consciously merged, both of us expanded.
Yeah. Let me interject. So she understood, as everybody has some idea of their mission. She understood from the get-go that her primary mission was to bring divine union, divine love back to the planet, right? She went through many years of, and was given, and not even had ever read about Herios Gamos. Once we merged and had Herios Gamos, and I started to take it in, I also understood that at all times that we have human interaction, be it through the internet, through imagination, through physical interaction, be it intimate or not, we were always merging with people. But this, what I began to understand, was a conscious merging. So the night that we met, which was my night, was her day, I was going through a whole bunch of stuff. And here we are with the etherical alignment and all that. And it was 3:33 in the morning, and I was in a very difficult space. And I did. I jumped up off the couch and I said, I need her now. And she messaged me. On the surface, it was her responding to her own intuition. But on the surface, it was really about, hey, do you want to join Soulogy? And I had never even asked anybody to. So I just was doing that because I was trying to bust the move, basically. True, that's true. So my point is from the get-go, there was a part of me that understood what she had to say about divine union and what the world lacked. Because ever since I was a little kid, I always, and I don't want this to sound wrong, I always believed the fairy tale. I knew she was there. So we start, the first night we were together, Herios Gamos, I said, I know I need to talk to you. I know we need to connect. Can you, I don't know what I said that night.
I need her.
Yeah, I said that. And then we started talking as humans. And you told me, and this is to give you an idea from my perspective, not someone who had been getting this information for 15, 17 years. She said to me, we're going to trust me, basically, we're going to merge. I said, what the hell is that? Herios Gamos, what the hell is that? And she explained to me that when two souls consciously merge without agenda, without blockages, from the highest intent, the pureness of our soul, that they gain from each other where they need help, what they're lacking. So she said to me, Todd Medina, may I hold your heart in my hands? And I said, okay. And I felt my heart being held. And so that's the chakra we started at. And then she said, with your permission, you can hold my heart in your hands. And so we went through this whole thing, and I began to understand that, because she told me, you're stuck in your sacral chakra like most men. I thought it was, some kind of sexual experience. It's not. It's not. I was going to write a post just before we came on, and before our sister Camara hit me up and initiated this, unbeknownst to her. And I was going to say, yes, to us or her, yeah. So I was going to say in it, we are, and I told our sister this, we are in the infancy of sacred sex, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, a hint of it. And I was going to write a post, a meme, that said, from a man's perspective, sacred sex has nothing to do with a happy ending or an orgasm. Now, if you had told me that 3, 4, 5 months ago, I would have said you're out of your freaking mind. But I'm here to tell you, this is what we really are. It's not porn. It's not cybersex. It's not any of that. It's something that we can remember when we have the faith to step into it. And the big part of it is, and that's why I think possibly we started with Herios Gamos, is because Herios Gamos is two souls merging from the purest intent and the highest unconditional love, and we, even without consciousness, but even without understanding. Let me put it that way. Even without understanding what's happening, I'm going to go back to her example and hand it back over to her. So we merged. We had Herios Gamos on that night at 3:33 in my morning. And then it went the next day and the next day. And she's right. I watched our chakras merge. I watched our higher selves merge. And I saw the effect that it had on the human being. I began to, very hardened, start to become softer, started to become more compassionate, less competitive. She has this great example, which I'm going to reiterate and hand back to her. So she was going to have to give a speech in a class she was taking. Everyone knows I don't have a problem being on camera. When I'm on with her, I don't know why I'm nervous the last 2 times. But the point is, I know this is us stepping out, coming out, all of us. So she was going to have this assignment where she had to speak in front of the class. We merged 3 or 4 or 5 times. She went into the class. She gave an impeccable speech and had no anxiety. Not only that, but I was to the point writing a lot more poetry from my heart, my soul. She started writing poetry. This is an example in the physical of how it works. Okay. And so I just wanted to make that clear, because that's the seat that I sit in when I talk to people. And so that, it can be understand. Maybe I have a skill of making people understand it on a broader level so that everybody gets it, so, but that's what it is. That's to me, from an unknowing point of view and a shadowed masculine of what Herios Gamos is. And I believe that after you receive this from infinite intelligence and your communion with the universe, you began to research Herios Gamos and actually found some stuff on it. And you can find stuff on it now in the internet.
I did, but not much. I mean, for me, I'd been doing it for years, and to me, it was just soul merging. And I think I wrote a post about it, and somebody said to me, that's Herios Gamos. So I began to do some research on Herios Gamos and realised that is exactly what it was. I had been doing this for years before I met Todd, and I found that, with every person that I merged with, initially their interest was in the sacral chakra, and I would say, I'm sorry for my bluntness, but this is a fact. I'm not doing cybersex. I know that this is touching the sacral chakra, but there are all these other chakras, and if we go up through the chakras, every chakra will expand both of us more so. And for me at the time, it was like a fast tracking. So Todd and I moved on from, we very quickly did all the chakras. It wasn't sexual, which he was the first man that didn't make it sexual. I mean, obviously, that first one was quite sexual for you?
No, it was not.
Okay. So Todd was the first man that said, yeah, okay, I want to move up through all the chakras. And I said to him, it's such pure love that the human mind will feel like he's fallen in love. But pure love creates that. It's such a powerful energy to allow consciously one soul to merge with another for that expansion period. So then we practiced it when we were told to.
Yeah.
And we started having these incredible, both of us could see what the higher self energies, the souls, I mean, I'm not into labels or whatever, but we started observing and watching what they were doing. And all this was happening in dimension, and we started to quickly understand that if we met And we didn't meet, I think, for 18 months.
Yeah, it was probably almost, 16, 17 months.
Okay, so we were having all these experiences in dimension with both of us fully conscious of what our higher selves were doing. And I knew very quickly I have to go and meet this man, because I'd never worked with anyone for more than 2 weeks.
Yeah, let's back up for 1 second. And the reason I want to do that is because I think a lot of people can relate to this. I came off the streets after 2 years, and I got a computer, and I started to be on Facebook and meet people. And there was this progression, because most of the people that are in these light worker circles are women. So the resonance, and we're all driven by that sacred sexual energy. We just didn't know it was sacred. And so there was this whole progression. And what I started to understand in retrospect, that I feel people can identify with, is so many of us have had these recollections. I know you. And then there's a past life or future life or parallel life. And what she said is true. We're recognizing the divinity in each other. We're recognizing and seeing each other through divine love. And because the human conditioning and experience, it leads us to believe, oh my God, I met my soulmate. How many of us have fallen in love in the last 6, 7 years, and 2 days later, you don't even talk to the person? I did it 100 times the first year I came off the street, right? So my point is, it's not a bad thing. We're actually recognizing the divinity in each other. She told me a long time ago, you can do Herios Gamos with anyone. You can do it with your mother. You can do it with your brother. You can do it with your sister. There's some truth to that. It might be hard to understand, but the whole point is, it's two souls coming together consciously with purest intent from their highest unconditional love, and that's it. Now, the sacred sexual aspect of it, the divine union aspect of it, as I'm getting it, is a little bit different. It's drilling down to the core from the 1 to the 2, right? So I just wanted to make that point. And if you remember where you were, you can go back to it. Do you?
No.
Well, I think we were talking about the journey that, as it progressed. And I go back to what I was led to lead the broadcast off with, which was divine union. And this woman telling me many times, I came to the planet to bring back divine union, which is also meaning I came back to bring divine love. We're all coming out now, and it's no time to allow fear to hold us back. So even if we don't get it all right, it's important for us to come out with it. We're not totally comfortable. I'm very relaxed in front of a camera, and I'm sweating my ass off right now. So, it's not so much the words, it's the frequency. It's that pure intent from the highest unconditional love. It's the intuition, it's the imagination, it's the spontaneity, and it's the force. It's the love force. People talk about life force. I'm starting to see it as love force. And so we're not talking about a personal journey of two people. We're talking about a frequency that is our natural nature. In any way that we can and make sense of it, there is no right or wrong in getting it perfect. As Jason Estes says today, the perfection is in the imperfection. So we move to divine union.
Okay, so I had been taught many years previously that there are actually 5 essences of love that most of us on the planet hadn't understood so far. And one was divine feminine, divine masculine, Christ consciousness, pure love, and sacred sexuality. I'd come from a childhood of serious abuse. I'd managed through my previous 2 Is this okay?
No, I think it's important that I'll say it because we're one. I mean, I know we've all been through traumas, but I think it's important to understand the backdrop here. We're talking about rape. We're talking about what we are understand in our condition as rape for many years. We're talking about experience that many of us have experienced. So I just want to say that because at the same time, we said this the other day. You said to me, did you go crazy? Were you mentally insane when you woke up? Now, I don't know if you were or you weren't, but I was. And all I'm trying to say is through whatever we've been through, what I know about her is that she was able to, in part of her day, every single day for months and years, be able to connect to infinite intelligence, which tells me, and I wrote a meme 5-6 years ago, I've proven you can go crazy and lose your fucking mind and still be connected. I just had to say that. So you went through many years of abuse.
So I went through a childhood with most of my childhood of abuse. I cleared that, in my mid-30s to 40, early 40s or whatever, and I knew that I was okay. I'd made a decision, and I remained celibate for 3 years, which doesn't seem long, but, it was enough, that I would never give myself to another if it wasn't pure. And for me, that was like a brilliant reset. It took me out of performance because as much as men had performance, she did as well. She knew what she was meant to do to him to please him. So, I needed that 3 years of being alone and being okay with being alone and developing a non-attachment to a relationship. I think when I made that decision, I was 47, maybe 48. I'm almost 52. So it must have been around that age. And I said to myself, I'd rather have nothing than go through anything like what I'd been through again. So I was very, very comfortable with not being in a relationship and very comfortable with letting go of what I knew as sex. Did I get to finish all the 5?
I'm sorry. Well, yeah, you did, but
so I knew that I needed to understand my own divine sacred feminine. I also needed to understand my own divine sacred masculine. I needed to fully understand Christ consciousness as much as I could, sacred sexuality as well as pure love, because I was told that they were the 5 essences of love. Now, most of us on this planet haven't known anything like that for as long as we've been here, and we've been focused on one of them, but haven't actually understood how to bring all 5 in. So that was my thing that I did before I met Todd. And then this crazy wild Texan, he contacts me and says, I need you, why don't you be a member of Soulogy? And after a couple of days, I didn't like being parts of groups. But after a couple of days, I wrote back to him and said, tell me about it, which he ignored for a couple of days. And then in the middle of the day, one day I've gone, I need to connect with this man. I didn't know what it was about. And he was on his knees. He was in trouble and he was yelling out, I need her and I need her now. So that was our first soul merging, as I called it. In my research, I found out it's actually called Herios Gamos.
Right.
So you actually want to move now on to
divine union, and we all know, we've all at least been told and either understand or think we understand, divine union occurs within all of us. It only makes sense. Now we're in a duality where the physical and the non-physical are the ultimate integration to the 0 point. And that's the beauty of the opportunity that we have. So it's great. We can think, we can know that we've had divine union in ourselves, and I'm not taking anything away from that, because ultimately that's really what it's all about. To thy known self be true. But we have an opportunity, an incredible opportunity that maybe the universe has never had, because Jason talked about it today in the show about how this is a free will realm, and that not all of them are. So if you throw that component in as well, and then you throw in the fact that you can now actually sit before somebody else who's separate in the physical and actually duplicate what's happened internally, it becomes Tesla's 3, 6, 9 math, where things start to expand exponentially. So where we're at, what I would start with anyway on the divine union part, and I'm saying this from, I'm going to say this, not just from a sacred masculine or divine masculine, because I am that. I'm going to say this from the shadowed and the wounded masculine, because I am that too. I'm not any longer, and I'm sending this out to primarily the men, I'm not going to run from that anymore. That's a part of my holy and whole. That's a part of my divine truth. Being a human being has to come before being a divine human being. And the feminine had been on one path, and the masculine had been on another. And we're all coming to grips with that. But the bottom line is, you know, in our moments when we're hot and bothered, it behooves us all, most of all ourselves, if I know itself be true, to speak our truth. And we've tried to disassociate from our human experience for too long. We can see it from a higher level now. So my point is, it's okay. I know I make you hot, so I'm kidding. So my point is that, you know, I guess all the stuff, and I know many men out there can understand this, if they really, at least within their own dialogue, within their own head, we've been through a lot of shit. We've hidden a lot of shit. We've denied. We've distracted ourselves from it, and I'm sure women have too. But divine union in the external may be the greatest gift we can give to the universe in the place, in the time and space that we stand now. And that just came out. So are you ready?
Yeah. We just did a massive session a couple of days ago, and what we're both finding is every time we do a huge big shift, that both of us are doing this. We're like trying to share the book, trying to share the fan. So we've just had a massive shift again a couple of days. So we agreed to meet each other. Both of us were 100%. We're committed to our own celibacy. This meeting isn't about sex. Neither of us are interested. I hope this is okay for me to talk about. Neither of us were interested in old sexual stuff. So I agreed, and Todd can give the dates, but I can't remember. But it's 1.5 years ago where we decided, okay, we're going to meet, but we're not trying anything on each other. We're past that. So we met, and very, very quickly, well, actually not true. For the first 5 weeks, it was a little bit of boot camp for you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I gave Todd some tools and he did it all himself. Gave him some tools to clear his shit, to clear the wounded masculine energy, which he did, for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, every day for 5 weeks. So we quickly moved past that, but there was something between us, and it was really interesting because for me, I'm 51 now, nearly 52, and I've been in 2 serious relationships. And this looked nothing like anything I'd experienced before. And I found myself moving through different aspects of myself. Some moments, he came and put a weed on my pillow one day. The old me would have gone, oh, my God, how rude. But the new me, with a conscious me, saw that as pure love. But, I was a businesswoman. I was a facilitator. I was his partner. I had so many. We've gone through this relationship with so many aspects of ourselves being there as well. Sometimes we'll sit and spend 2 hours talking business. and then we'll look at each other and just cry, and we don't even know why we're crying. Sometimes we go into sessional work when we know we've got to connect in dimensions. Sometimes we got to this place yesterday and we both went at each other. It only lasted 30 seconds, but both of us walked away, went to our separate spaces, did our own work, and came back together, knowing we just entered it's not that it's a 3D space, but we got triggered into 3D. We went at each other and we both knew to walk away, and everything's been a divine conscious union relationship doesn't look anything like we've experienced before. And actually, we all know that. I'm not saying anything that none of us doesn't know. But we operate in there's numerous aspects of us, and somehow we are aligning that more easily in every moment. Now, saying that, and we are going to touch on a hint of sacred sexuality from beginners. We are beginners at this. We are so beginners, and it's been mind-blowing, what can happen. But I find it fascinating that this looks nothing like a conventional relationship, that we shift out of all these different dimensions within every moment, and the alignment of that is getting better and better and better.
Yeah. It's
easier.
Yeah.
Easier.
I think we can all admit, okay, that at least at a minimum, our greatest suppression has been in our sacred sexual energy, or you can even call it sexual energy. Our greatest misunderstanding, our greatest confusion, our greatest secrets, okay? And what's happening here is you're talking about what we're all doing, and that's merging polarities. There is no separation. You take what the human aspect might call bad and good, and you've got to find that 0 point. There is no one to blame, right? And so we walk into this thing, and you've got someone here who's been on this path for 18 or 20 years, who's been communicating, like so many of you sisters, and a few men, I'm sure, but so many of you sisters communicating at this high level, just you and the universe. I'm crazy. Am I crazy? You're told you're crazy and all that stuff, but holding on to that sacred wisdom. And then you have the masculine part, which is the polarity. And he's identified himself with the ability to be powerful in a sexual, powerfully way, but not just in the bedroom, but in all ways, in work, competitively. To be in the old paradigm when I was a total alpha male and to dominate in the business world was a sexual high. The goddess has risen. It's important to understand that in the realm and the time and space we're in, as I've learned, she has to step into her power. And we're talking energy, okay? And we're talking literally. She has to step into her power or he doesn't have a chance. And this is not, anything more than what I'm saying or anything less. It's about energy within ourselves, divine union, and what we can do externally, because that's what this trip's all about. This trip is not about what we've already come into this world with, which is divine union, a balanced masculine and feminine. We may have forgotten it, we may have lost it, whatever you want to say. We have an opportunity to actually externalize this into physical matter, okay? And that's the fascinating, powerful, incredible outer breadth of Mother Universe, the expansion of creation. So we go into this sacred sexual thing. We've been together a collective, what did you say the other day? How many weeks?
12 first, at 10 and then 12, and now
8. So what's that? 30. 10, okay, so 30 weeks over a year and a half.
No, over 3 years.
Well, I mean, since the first time you came. Okay. And by the old paradigm, we have probably had what might looks like,
very little.
hang on, we might have had what looks like intimacy a handful of times. But we have had intimacy, I don't know,
Let's talk about
50,
what happened in the last couple
we
of
will, 50 times. But it could be joining our pinkies, my hand on her back, which was the first sacred sexual experience I ever had, and she had, was I put my hand right between her shoulder blades. I didn't know what I was doing. And something happened. A portal opened. I watched it happen, not just in the physical, but in the non-physical. I watched it happen. A shadowed man watched my hand go into the middle of her shoulder blades on her spine and absolutely merge the physical and the non-physical in a way that was way beyond physical orgasm for either party. Whether there was anything like that happened or not, I don't even think there was. I know there wasn't for me. It was incredible. And like she said earlier, we're infants. We're like 2, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds on a playground, on the swing set, in the joy of just swinging each other or getting on the merry-go-round or chasing each other around the playground. This is what I'm talking about. We are on the cusp of this, and we're just a reflection of the collective. You want to talk about
the last few days.
That's
So we have a practice that we try to do every day, and that's to find a gap in the mid to late afternoon, where we just lay on the bed next to each other and palm to palm, and we just close our eyes. It's almost like a joint meditation, I guess. And that for us is it's almost like a doorway open, that if something's meant to happen or we need to know something, we'll have a joint understanding. So 2 days ago,
which time are you talking about? It all runs together.
Okay, so 2 mornings ago.
Okay,
and I might have to change this. Okay.
No, don't change
so
it.
I think it was 2 mornings ago, and maybe
Right.
it was 3, but I think it was 2 mornings ago. We did that practice, and
Right.
we actually did it late morning, I think. It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we joined hands, and we both started hearing the same voice that says, Morgan, you're frightened of your power. Do you want it? Because you can have it right now. And I got a shock to burst into tears. And I think I cried for minutes fighting it.
Yeah.
And I kept hearing, all you have to do is, then I have to talk about what happened the night before.
You already opened the can of worms.
Damn. Okay. So last week I hurt my back.
Well, wait, they keep going. So you were laying in bed.
No, this is important.
I know. I just want to make sure they understand. So we had palm to palm. We were both receiving. What she was getting on a personal level was, are you ready to step in your power? Like, what's holding you back? And she was crying. Something was blocking her. And she was crying. And then finally she said, yes, please. Right? And
so
then,
I laid there and nothing happened. So after about 5 minutes, I said to the voices, the inner voice, whatever you call it, higher self. For me, it was my higher self, which I know is me. But I said to her after about 5 minutes, hello, nothing's happening. And she said, Todd already did that last night. Now, a week previously, I had really hurt my back. And Todd said to me, I'm going to massage you. I've never liked massages in my whole life, but for some reason I just said yes. He massaged me like nothing that looked like a massage at all. And it wasn't even slightly sexual. Like he knew my own electrical circuitry, and he knew exactly where to touch. I'm going to be really open here, and if people don't like X-rated, you can turn it off.
X-rated.
It was the most sexual experience I've ever experienced in my life, and I was just being massaged on my back, and it was freaking phenomenal. And he did that 3 times. So the night before this experience, you'd done it again. Yeah. And you went a little bit further than just a massage. It did go a little bit further, didn't it?
Yeah.
So I've said to my higher self, okay, yes, it took me 3 to 5 minutes of crying, fighting. No, I don't want to know my power. I don't want to know it. And when I said yes, nothing happened. So a few minutes later, I was like, what's happening? Where's all the sacred geometry and the colours and everything? And she said to me, Todd did it for you last night. I haven't said what it was. My sacral needed to be fully merged with my solar plexus in order to be in my full power. Now, the things that he did the night before were first a massage and then still a massage, but into beyond a massage. It wasn't sex, but it was a, God, I don't even know how to explain this.
I would say that
It was a conscious.
It's the most sexless sex you've ever had, but it's sexy. And that's the only way I can say it. It's not what we came from, any of us. Anything. Look, she had a transmission before the second time we got together, right? And in that transmission, she was visualizing, because we hadn't done anything after 12 weeks. We hadn't done anything. We got married and barely
Still didn't do
done
anything for like a week or
just
something.
barely. Yeah. So we're talking a collective 22 weeks. Okay.
Together.
Barely had done anything. Slept together, but I mean, barely had done anything that we might call, as from a human aspect, sex. So we're coming together again. She's visualizing what we know, as all of us, what might happen. And the energy comes in and tells her, stop, don't do that. Because it's nothing like that. It's going to be way beyond that. And that's what's happening. Our friend today, Camara, said you guys need to go out there and talk about this so we can all know what we're heading to. And we're not saying that we know everything. All we're trying to do is relay
what we're learning,
what we're going through. Yeah.
So that night, it started off as a massage. You actually flipped me over and started doing the front. But it was still almost non-sexless. But
Absolutely.
You were actually following. You can now see almost like an electrical system of my whole body.
Yeah.
So he was healing this horrendous, and it was horrendous, wound in the back of my solar plexus. So I was asked, do you want to step into your full power? I was too scared to say yes, but after a few minutes, I finally got past myself and said yes, and waited a few minutes, nothing happened. And I said to my higher self, what's happening here? And she said, he did it last night. In that moment, my sacral chakra merged as one with my solar plexus chakra, and I just burst into tears. And I rolled over because we'd just been laying side by side and looked at Todd, and tears was pouring down my face. And he said, what? And I said, you did this last night. Yeah. It's done. Yeah. Which I think brought up a lot of, we just laid there for ages just crying. Yeah. What was fascinating for me was, I don't know, I think we spent 10 minutes in that position. I just couldn't stop crying. I knew I had connected my solar plexus with my sacral, and then it started for him, and his sacral needed to be merged with his heart. Yeah. And I've been talking for years about, the human 3D sexual energy is, he wants to get into her sacral. He is hell-bent to get into her pussy, and she's hell-bent, apologies if I offend anyone.
No.
She's hell-bent to get into his heart. And we haven't understood how big this is. Yeah. Because her true power is from the solar plexus and connection to her sacral, and his true power is from his heart connection to his solar plexus. So we just laid there for how long?
I don't even know.
It has to have been at least half an hour or something. Yeah. And both of us was crying and crying and crying.
So, so we can mix it right, so we can integrate the man's perspective, all right? If you think about it, it's pretty. It doesn't even matter if you're a man or a woman. Okay, it's pretty easy to figure out. He's always wanted to get her pants. That's where he finds his power, that he can accomplish that and achieve that and control that. And you know what I mean? And what? She's always trying to get in his heart. She's always serving to her own, demise. And think about it. We went through what she's talking about. We went through this, and now I will tell you that too about the sacred sexual vibration. When you lose the agenda of a happy ending, when you lose the agenda of performance, when you strip down to nothing, okay, and you are nothing but what we really are, which is pure love, be man or woman, something happens. The higher aspects come in. I can't tell you that I consciously knew what I was going to do, but I can tell you I knew. Let me tell you, she told me about a week before. She said to me, when you're caressing me and we go to sleep at night, there's a spot you get to that just lights me up. And it's not a sexual organ, at least not on the physical level. And I said to her, I know what it is. She says, well, what is it? I said, I'm not going to tell you. She says, what is it? And I said to her, I don't know what it is, but I know what it is. And it was the two voices. The human did not really know what it was, but the higher self did. And I knew the next night when we were in laying down together, going to sleep, and I was caressing her, I knew I would find it, and absolutely did. So back to the story. I massaged her on the surface. That's what it was. I began to see the circuitry of her entire field. I began to see colors like a circuit board, which is still growing now. I just told her an hour ago. That circuit board is growing outside of your physical body. It's like a big square now, like a big rectangle. So that's what happened. It was not conscious and it was not unconscious. It was at that space in between. So the next day, the next morning, I know. I just want to say this because I don't want to forget. I don't mean to interrupt you. The next morning, and I think she started to talk about it. So we got up and started doing some stuff and whatever, and we both looked at each other about 10 o'clock. We're like, hey, what the hell's going on? We need to go lay down. We need to lock palms. We lay down, right? I knew what was going to happen. She got up, bad back and all, squats up. I knew what was going to happen. She looks at me and says, this has nothing to do with sex. I said, I already know. You didn't need to tell me. My hands go up like this, kind of a little bit further out, but I can't do it right. They were like out like this, right? She says, what are you doing? I said, I don't know. I feel like I'm holding up a halo. She says, you are. So then some things started to happen. And they were not, if you looked at them from the human physical eyes, they weren't even porn. They weren't even really sexual. But oh my fucking God and goddess, oh my God, I saw a cross of blue and white light appear in my head. I saw the face of Jesus and Magdalene. I'm sitting there, my eyes are rolled in the back of my head. There's nothing going on like you might think. It was a ritual. It was a higher aspect coming into her, just like came into me. Okay? And doing what we are, what our natural nature is, what we know to do. Divine union is rooted in the sacred sexual vibration as I understand it. It is. And it's, like I said, the only way I can put it, I'm from the streets. I know I don't speak the right vernacular, but it is for lack of a better way of explaining something that cannot be explained, it is the most sexless sex you've ever had, but it's sexy as F.
Yeah, but most of it is ritual, because the spot that that we discovered like a week beforehand is most of the time that a man and a woman is having sex or oral sex. Am I allowed to talk like this?
Say that again.
Most of the time that a man and a woman is having sex or oral sex or something,
yeah,
there is this place on her body that his hand always goes, and that is the small of her back.
Let's talk about that. We discovered this together. So, okay. So we've had what might look like physical sex based on where we've all come from, but it's not.
But it was through the massage that you
Yeah. But yes, and that was what I was talking about when she said, there's a spot that lights me up. When the next night occurred, and I knew, I told her, I don't know where it is, but I do. It happened, right? And it did begin to look maybe a little bit like the intimacy or physical sex that we've all come from, but it wasn't.
I think you should let me talk about this.
I just want to say one thing. Okay. What I got out of it was there was a PowerPoint, and I don't know if it's the same for everybody, on the small of her back that I knew like the back of my hand, okay? Like innately. And incorporating that placement of the palm of my hand with whatever I was doing otherwise created this incredible explosion, such as I could be running my finger, okay, around the expanse of her breast, not trying to arouse or anything, and actually, as a man, feeling multiple orgasms within my own self. Like, what the fuck is this? But I like it. Let's keep doing it. Stay with the flow, kind of thing. So, it from a man's perspective, and she'll give you the other perspective, it's not what we thought. Cut your balls off. Cut them off. Cut them off. Get rid of all that. There is nothing. It's nothing about pleasing her. It's strictly about divine love. It's strictly about divine vibration. And I can't even explain it, but it is that space between breaths. It is the space between conscious and subconscious or unconscious. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So what we discovered was that in the heightened sexual experience, when she brings up all of this sexual power, most of the time, and a lot of women are going to know what I'm talking about, and probably, in fact, a lot of men too, his hand automatically goes to the small of her back. So all this sexual energy that's pent up, built up, that's meant to be all this shared experience, he unconsciously, most of the time, takes into himself, which is why he was so fascinated with getting into the pussy. Sorry.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if he's having sex with her, like this hand on the small of her back is pulling it all into himself. Yeah. And that is nothing against the men in any way, shape or form, because she was trained to be that programming as well. One of our first sexual encounters ever, which was in Georgia, really in Georgia, those conscious, we were instructed, this is X-rated, so if you don't like X-rated, now's the time to turn it off.
We're all family.
We were instructed that Todd was to spend some time with my right breast, and he wasn't allowed to touch anything else. He wasn't even allowed to kiss me. And I think we don't know time because we don't turn the clock on, but it was at least 20 to 30 minutes.
No, it's about an hour.
So, lucky me, Todd spent 1 hour. I don't think it was that long, but whatever time it was, I don't remember.
49 minutes.
49 minutes. How would you know that?
Because I remember. It's like I remember the last two encounters we're talking about were One was 22 minutes, one was 26.
Right. Okay. So apparently Todd spent 49 minutes just 100% present with my right breast. In that, a portal opened up. We were shown that the right breast is about life sustenance and trust. And it was exquisite. Can I be really?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm about to.
So I didn't have what you would call normal human orgasms, but my whole body lit up and it was bigger than the orgasms. But what was really cool for me was watching this man run around the house for about an hour later. What is this? What is this? Oh my God. And he was having his first time ever multiple orgasms. Now, there wasn't, that's all that happened. But he connected with my body 100% then. Now, the next day, nothing happened. The next day, we were told, you now have to spend that time on her left breast.
Yeah.
I need to get this right. So the left breast was Faith.
Faith, yeah.
So he spent whatever time he did, and he probably knows the times, but he wasn't allowed to kiss me. He wasn't allowed to touch any other part of my body. It was just about the breast. And the left breast was about Faith.
Yeah.
And then the third day, he actually had to put all the energy into both breasts. I can't remember, I can't remember what it was about. Two breasts together were the beginning of creation.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are so we are infants in this.
Yeah.
It's been profound. Both of us are mind blown about what we are learning at the moment, and we're in our 50s. He's an old man.
I'm not an old man.
And I'm an old woman too, actually, but we are not buying into, we're not listening to anything of the old. Okay, so let me go back to so after that, both of our sacrals were reconnected to where they were meant to be reconnected to.
Yeah.
I woke up the next morning knowing that I needed, and I had them years ago, but I got rid of all my stuff.
Oh, okay.
3 years ago.
Okay.
So I woke up the next morning.
Before you get to that, because that's going to be the way we end it. Because that's too much. Not too much, but that's
No.
No, but let me say this. I want to say this to the men. Okay, we're going to come to that because that really is the finale. Because that's huge. That's huge, and I don't know what we're going to say about it. All right.
You don't know what I'm going to say about it.
I'm shaking in my boots. So let me talk about the small of the back. And I don't know if it applies to every man, but I've got to believe as the individual goes, so goes the collective, because I've received that for 7 years. So everything we do isn't just a personal thing. I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about all of you, right? And when we had the conversation and she started it with, there's a part of my body when you're caressing me that just lights me up. And I said, I know what it is, but I don't know what it is. At some level, I knew what it was, but at the human level, I didn't, because the human level comes in with the doubt and all that stuff, right? So what I understood when it happened is I reflected back on my life. I understood that when a man was in a certain position of control of her energy, that spot was a place of bringing that energy and that power into him. It wasn't hers. It was him. He had control. He was a fucking man, He got this. You know what I'm talking about? But this was different. When we reached that point and my hand went there, regardless of whether it was a kiss or a caress or anything else, and my hand was there, she had the power and she shared that power. And when she shared that power, it ran through me right back into her and some crazy cosmic, soul-gasmic, galactic fucking nuclear bomb. No, but I'm just saying. Yeah, but I'm just saying that's, as a man, we've all felt that power over. And that's what it was. Don't deny it. It was power over, because it made me feel like I was a god. Like I was on this shit. Like I owned this, right? But this was different. This was not me taking. This was her actually feeling what was happening and then giving it to me. Oh my God. It came into me and went right back into her. And this whole cycle of incredible rainbow clear chakra channeled fusion happened. And that's why I'm telling you, I have been, just speaking in the last 8 weeks, I have been in a multi-orgasmic state, okay, for, oh my God, 20-30% of the time. And I haven't even had a physical orgasm, maybe what, 5-6 times, if that many, I don't know. All right. This is the cusp of what we're on. This is our natural nature. And I'm just trying to speak to the men. Cut your balls off. Let it all go. We're not what we thought. Follow her. Not because she's going to lead the way the whole way, but because they've carried this knowledge. That's why they call it women's intuition. Okay? They've always been connected. We were the ones that took the role we took, and they took the role they took. And maybe it's different in another realm. All right? Now we're going to go to the finale, which is, I'll let you talk about it.
Was it yesterday or the day before?
It was yesterday.
Okay.
No, it was
the
day before.
So we had the experience of that, both of us allowing our sacral chakras to merge. For her, the solar plexus, and then for him, the heart.
Yeah.
He had to allow his solar plexus to, his sacral chakra to merge with his heart.
Yeah.
That was huge. So I woke up the next morning, which I think is the morning before yesterday. So it's 2 mornings ago, and I woke up and knew that I needed. Oh dear, I'm not used to speaking.
Go ahead.
Okay, that I was meant to have a yoni egg. So I knew that in town that there was a crystal shop, and I just, it's my whole being knew that I needed a yoni egg, which I had years and years ago, but yeah. So I got Todd to take me to the crystal shop, and I thought I was going in to get a yoni egg, but I was drawn to a small rose quartz heart instead, and I knew that that was right for me. At this point, I didn't even know why, but I knew I had to have this very small rose quartz crystal heart. I bought it home. I didn't know what I was doing with it. We just, we were booking shows. Most of the time that we're together, we're very, very normal human beings. We're talking business. We're talking spiritual growth. We're talking ascension. We're talking what happened over next door that we saw, where are we going to live tomorrow. Most of our time together is actually really, really normal. So I had this rose quartz crystal with me for quite a long time. And then I had a shower that night, and I knew, this is not just a rose quartz heart. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that it was going to be like a rose. So I went and had a shower, and I did what I needed to do with it. And while I was in the shower, I heard he was meant to activate that. So I walked out, and he's sort of looking at me, and he's like, so what did you do with your rose heart? And I'm like, well,
I didn't say that.
You did.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
So you said to me, I'm meant to do something with that. No, it's too late. I've already done what I need to do with it. And he said, no, you need to sort that. So I had to go back into the bathroom, remove it, wash it, bring it out, and give it to him.
So I knew that, it was, and again, I think this is part of the sacred sexual vibration, is you don't have this premeditated, performance accentuated kind of thing going on. It's just, it's spontaneous and intuitive and imaginative and creative, just what we talk about, or what I talk about on Soul Speaks 5D, what that is, right? And so I just knew, and your whole body fills up. Your whole body fills up. It's not like, oh my God. And I'm speaking to the men, And I'm speaking to the women, but I'm speaking to the men because I think that's an important part of what's happening right now. So it's not, oh my God, am I going to get laid? It's something else. And I've got to believe that what I've been through, what we've been through, is not unique to us. Maybe people aren't conscious of it, but the energy is there. The doors have opened. So I start to get this feeling. Now, I've been with her many times when a higher aspect of her jumps in. And it's like, whoa, right? Like a ritual starts, or a message comes in, or a transmission's meant directly for me, right? In many cases. So we went from what she just described, we went into the bedroom, and I knew that I knew what to do, and it was innate, and there was no conscious part of it. It was just like, it was literally being in the space between breaths. So I just took over. And many times when she's had aspects come in, many times. She goes into light language, which she's never done that on camera. Morgan's light language, many different languages, many different aspects, and it's mind blowing. Okay. I was like, I did it. I grabbed that thing. I did what I needed to do, what I knew I needed to do, how I knew how to do it. And all of a sudden, I'm chanting. And not only chanting, but there's sacred geometry going off and all this stuff. And I don't have to go into all that. The whole point is, where we're headed, we're just on the cusp. And we're all going there.
I'm going to go into it.
Okay.
So I presented him with a crystal that I knew that I had to get. I thought I was looking for a yoni egg, but I was instructed directly to get a rose quartz love heart. I came back out, I presented it with him, and he just took it and he put it in his pocket. It didn't really say very much. Most times that we go to bed and we're very, very tired because we're discussing who else do we want to interview. Most of our time spent together is, what else does Soulogy need? What else do we need to do to transform ourselves? Where were we not grown today? What else do we need to shift? Anyway, so we both had showers. We went to bed. We thought again that we're just going to sleep. We sleep side by side, touching palms. And next thing, Todd brings out this crystal. He placed the crystal at every possible chakra point, beyond chakra points. At every point that he put it, he did toning and chanting. How far am I going to go with it?
I guess you're going to go as far as you want to.
He's covered every possible chakra. He knew, I hadn't discussed what I got in the morning with him. He knew where this crystal belonged. He did every chakra point, and then he put it in his mouth. And I'm laying there thinking, that's my crystal. I bought that. That belongs such and such. And this man's going to eat or swallow my crystal. But he didn't. He didn't swallow or eat my crystal, but he planted the crystal from his mouth exactly where it needed to be. Apologies if I offend anyone, and then we went to sleep.
That's sacred.
So sacred, it was mind-blowing. We both woke up the next morning when I've got, oh my God, what was that? And Todd said to me, it was so ceremonial and ritualistic. I don't even know how that happened, but it was ancient. The human self didn't know what he was doing, but all of it was there. I knew exactly what I was doing.
You shouldn't have taken the filters off. So
what?
You shouldn't have taken the filters off.
What filters?
Of what we're talking about. So again, so it wasn't. There was no agenda. There was no
sex
orgasm. There was an extreme heightened sexual energy. And I knew what to do, right? And this, again, is a reflection of what the collective is potentially able to grab onto, right?
You actually held that rose quartz in your mouth for a long time,
I did.
didn't you?
Yes, I did. I held it in my mouth, and not only did I place it where it needed to go, but from there was a ritual that again, looking from the human eyes only, the non-physical, disallowing the non-physical, which is not what we are, might have looked a little bit sexual, but it wasn't. There was a method. There was a pattern, and the pattern involved verbal tones, which were I could only explain. There was five again, as she said, five. The five,
five essences of
so there was
universal love.
And I'm not thinking about that, but there was five tones, and those tones were what I would describe as two-letter sounds, like Ra or whatever. I don't remember what they were, and they were in a certain sequence, which was not a pattern of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It was more of like a pattern of 1, 5, 2, 3, 4, and there was other things involved. So a higher aspect came into me and delivered what needed to be delivered. This is sacred sex. This is divine union.
Which looks nothing like the old human sex.
Yeah.
That we become attached to.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with it. I can tell you that the multiple internal, I hate to use the word orgasm, but the multiple internal soulgasms I've had that have nothing to do with being touched at all, but touching. Not in sexual ways, as we might think, are so far beyond the highest physical orgasms I ever had in my life. And I've had many, and I've done it all, right? It's like you just throw your hands up and surrender, period. And this is who we are. This is what we were kept from. This is where we're going. It's inevitable. And the more we buy into it and get away from what the patterns and beliefs at the core of our power, which is where we've been suppressed, and like go figure, because it's all been locked down in that root chakra. The more we get away from that, the more we disallow that to control us and disempower us, the more this is available. And it's way beyond sacred sex in terms of what you might think. It affects all aspects of our life: creativity, imagination, power of manifestation, and all that stuff. I'm done.
Me too. I feel done too.
We're just trying to do our best. Thank you all for your continued love, support, and contributions. Say goodbye. Thank you.